It is the year 2153, and the Paleo-17 space probe lands on the planet Tanis and hopes to find a new home for the people of the Earth. The year 2174 comes, and the shortage of resources on Earth becomes devastating. Humanity launches the spacecraft Elysium, holding 60 people, to find a new home on Tanis. It receives a transmission from the Earth, informing the captain and his crew that they are all that is left of humanity. The spaceship is maintained by a rotating crew, who wake up from their hypersleep state, while all passengers are kept in a hypersleep state until they reach their destination. Corporal Bauer wakes up prematurely in his sleep-inducing chamber, in a panic. The chamber opens and he crawls out of it, removing the wires connected to his body. He looks around and sees that some of the chambers are empty. He sees his locker and gets suited up. He's suffering from mild memory loss from his extended hypersleep chamber. He tries to get out of the chamber room, but with the power down, the doors are not opening. He tries waking up Lieutenant Peyton in hopes that he can help him, but his chamber is impenetrable. The spaceship suddenly starts shaking, and Peyton's chamber suddenly opens. Like Bauer, he is suffering from memory loss and does not know where they are. Bauer cannot answer him, since he doesn't know anything either. Bauer helps him dress up, and they talk about anything they know. They go to the monitoring room, and Peyton manually powers the monitoring system. He tries reaching out to other crews around the spaceship that might be awake, but no one responds. He thinks that the others might not be able to communicate with them because of the power outage. Bauer decides to get out through the ventilation system, while Peyton remains in the monitoring room in hopes of communicating and being there when the power goes back on. Bauer has some sense of what is wrong with the ship and what caused the power outage. Peyton thinks that he might be the ship's mechanical engineer. As the ventilation becomes narrower, Bauer starts to panic, and Peyton tries to calm him down. Bauer falls down the vertical shaft and sees the corpse of another man named Cooper. He unlatches the door and is able to get out of the vent, but loses his connection with Peyton. Bauer forcibly opens the locker door and goes out to explore the ship. He sees a woman roaming around, and when she sees him, she starts running away. Bauer runs after her and stops her in a hallway. He starts asking her questions to get some more information about the situation on the ship. He discovers that the shadow he is seeing is not from the woman, but from the lifeless body of a man who was brutally murdered, hanging from the ceiling. The woman jumps on him and pins him to the ground. Her name is Nadia. She is the ship's environmental scientist. She inspects his clothes and orders him to take off his shoes. Suddenly, she sees a light coming from up ahead and hurriedly runs off. Bauer hears shrieking sounds, and the man's lifeless body is suddenly taken away. He runs away from the light source and hides back in the locker room. He sees a humanoid creature eating the lifeless body of the man. He hides inside a locker room, but suddenly gains his connection with Peyton. He immediately shuts it off, but the creature already heard it and attacks. Fortunately, it snatches the corpse of Cooper and starts dragging it away. Bauer tells Peyton about the creature and what happened to him. Peyton tells him that there might not be help coming for them. He learns that they are on a one-way trip to the planet Tanis. The spaceship is not made to turn back. Bauer remembers his wife and suddenly wants to find her somewhere on the ship. Peyton is against this idea. The ship is way too big and too dangerous. They need to take control of the ship first, so it will be easier for them to find other people. Bauer finds the armory and starts to gear up to protect himself from the creatures roaming around the ship. Peyton recommends the safest path to the reactor and monitors Bauer's surroundings from where he is. Bauer sees another movement and hides behind a door. He sees a ladder going up and starts climbing as Peyton tells him about the Eden mission. It was the biggest catastrophe in space travel. The crew had a hypersleep malfunction, causing one of the officers to have a psychological breakdown called Pandorum. The officer murdered his crew, thinking that their flight was cursed, and released the people under hypersleep into the oblivion of space. Bauer continues traveling under Peyton's instruction, but stops when he sees another motionless body, a man hanging from the ceiling. He inspects the mechanism that trapped the man. Suddenly, the man wakes up and starts screaming in terror. Bauer calms him down and tells him that he can help. He cut the man loose and introduces himself as Shepard. They hear the creature coming, and the two of them run as fast as they can. Shepard gets caught again and is swarmed by a bunch of creatures, who immediately start devouring him. Meanwhile, Bauer is saved by a mysterious man wearing a hood. His name is Mon. He was the ship's agricultural farmer before it got run over by the cannibalistic creatures. Mon starts asking him questions, but he cannot understand the language he is speaking. Bauer tries explaining that he is part of the flight team, and he will try to fix the situation they are in. He continues his path to the reactor. Meanwhile, Peyton struggles to open the door in the monitoring room when a thud suddenly echoes through the vent. Bauer walks into the cargo room when Nadia appears and suddenly attacks him. Mon appears as well and attacks Nadia to save Bauer. Bauer stops them by throwing things down on them. He asks them if they should work together, and the two of them agree. Nadia is still doubtful of him, so Bauer tells him their plan to power up the reactor and take control of the ship. She leads the group to a safer way to the reactor. They reach a laboratory where Nadia has been living for months. She tells them what happened to them and what their mission is. The ship is carrying all the genetic material they need to begin a new life in Tannis, but it is slowly dying off without the power from the nuclear reactor. Peyton crawls up the vent system to check out the noise and suddenly finds an injured man. The man says that he is part of the flight crew and introduces himself as Corporal Gallo. The man is shaking in terror and cannot say anything useful. Meanwhile, Bauer's group continues on their way to the reactor. They enter the hypersleep personnel chamber. Bauer thinks that his wife might be there, but Nadia doubts it. Bauer and Nadia suddenly fall down into a muck of waste disposal. It must be where the cannibals throw out what remains of their prey. The two of them climb back up, quietly to avoid detection, but a cannibal is already waiting for them to emerge. It attacks the two of them, and they are both hurt badly by its inhuman strength. Mon comes to their rescue, and the three of them are able to take down the cannibal. The leader of the cannibals sees this and calls for backup. The other cannibals arrive to devour their fallen comrades. The group escapes. Peyton starts inspecting Gallo and discovers that he is from Ship 4. Gallo tells him that there was something wrong with his crew. They all caught the Pandorum and started acting violently. He tells Peyton that he had to protect himself. Peyton does not believe him and is apprehensive about Gallo. Bauer's team reaches a room-like bunker to hide from the cannibals chasing after them. Mon sees a disheveled person hiding on one of the balconies and alerts his comrade. The man surrenders and welcomes him to his place. He acts a bit crazed, but assures the group that the cannibals cannot come into this place. His name is Leland. He is a cook on the ship. Nadia tells Bauer that she thinks that the cannibals are the ship's passengers that have adapted to the ship and mutated to become what they are now. Leland hears their conversation and tells him that he has been awake for a while and has seen a lot of things. Gallo is on high alert around Peyton. He sees him taking a sedative and starts acting aggressively against him. He tells Peyton about the early signs of Pandorum and starts justifying his actions against his crew. Peyton is not even questioning him, but he starts to become defensive. Peyton keeps his hands on a weapon in case Gallo starts acting violent. Leland tells the group about the purpose of their voyage through space. He had been keeping drawings of it on his walls to keep himself sane. He shows them the transmission they received from Earth years ago about the fate of the planet. At the same time, Gallo tells this story to Peyton. Gallo wanted to wake the primary crew up, but his comrades were already fighting for dominance. He had no choice but, being the only one that remained, he woke the others up to be his allies, inducing Pandorum into them. Together, they ruled over the ship. When he became fed up with it, he decided to return to hypersleep. His comrades, however, mutated into the cannibalistic creatures lurking around the ship because of the enzymes that were meant to help them adapt to their supposedly new planet. Leland gasses Bauer's team and ties them up. It turns out that he is also a cannibal, but he has not mutated. Bauer convinces him that the ship is in its final phase before it shuts down. The life of everyone on board will come to an end if they do not reset the nuclear reactor. This convinces Leland to release them. Bauer contacts Peyton and informs him that they are in the storage tank and about the situation with the reactor shutting down. He asks him to access the memory banks from the last power surge to help them reset them. Peyton immediately goes to work and informs them that they have less than an hour before the system shuts down. Peyton gives the group the fastest route toward the reactor. Leland joins the group, staying behind them the whole time. They encounter a child mutant that Nadia hesitates to fight for a second. The child is able to escape, screaming loudly, which could possibly alert its comrade. The other cannibals see them and start chasing after them. The group hide in the flight personnel chamber. Meanwhile, Peyton is still working to open the door to the bridge. Gallo starts taunting him, saying that his attempts are useless and that they should just focus on saving themselves. Peyton believes that Bauer could power up the nuclear reactor and save the ship. Gallo thinks that he will not be able to do it, since he barely knows himself. Bauer realizes that all of the chambers are open. Everyone in there is already gone, probably eaten by the cannibals. Nadia asks him if he thinks that his wife was there, but he remembers that she did not come with him to the Elysium in the first place. His wife left him, which devastated him badly. He thought that he had nothing left to lose, so he enlisted himself to board the Elysium. Bauer wants to stop what they're doing. He thinks that there is no point in continuing, now that there is nowhere they can go back to. Nadia convinces him that they need to move forward and continue their lives. Bauer sees the pot of Peyton's wife, which triggers another memory. They move out and reach the nuclear reactor. Bauer starts crossing the bridge to get to the reactor. They discover that the cannibals sleep under the bridge to the reactor. The bridge suddenly collapses, and the team reacts fast enough, with Nadia catching Bauer and Mon catching the end of the bridge. Nadia slips, but Bauer is able to catch himself on a pipe. Nadia runs to the reactor and starts accessing it. Gallo starts losing it and becomes agitated toward Peyton. Peyton tries to calm him down and tries to locate the sedative, but that does not alleviate Gallo's aggression. Gallo grabs a weapon and breaks the glass in front of him. Bauer has no choice but to walk across the sleeping bodies of the cannibals to reach the nuclear reactor. He He covers himself in some cloth he gathered down there to hide his scent from the cannibals. Leland accidentally drops his flashlight as Bauer is climbing up the reactor. He leaves the group to save himself as the cannibals wake up. Mon decides to let go of the bridge, taking a bunch of cannibals down. He makes loud noises and lets them chase him, giving Bauer and Nadia time to power up the nuclear reactor. Bauer is able to restart the nuclear reactor and stop the ship from shutting down. Mon loses the group following him, but comes face to face with the leader of the cannibals. The two of them fight. Mon is able to end the leader's life and is about to walk off when the child cannibal appears. He hesitates to destroy the child, which costs him his life. Peyton and Gallo start fighting for the sedative, and before he knows it, Peyton realizes that Gallo is just a hallucination. Leland enters the monitoring room, and Peyton quickly ends him. He closes the door to the bridge and walks to another room. Bauer and Nadia manage to open the door and squeeze through the closing door of the monitoring room before the herd of cannibals catches up to them. Bauer had already realized that Peyton is actually Gallo, who finished off his own crew. When he put himself into Peyton's hypersleep chamber, Peyton's memories were induced into him and made him think that he is actually Peyton. Gallo reveals that they have been lost in space for a long time. He starts taunting Bauer to just give up. Nadia realizes that they are under the waters of Tannis already. The water pressure starts breaking the ship, taking down Gallo and the cannibals. Bauer and Nadia enter a chamber as the system automatically releases them, along with the other active pods, onto the surface of Tannis.